I thought you might say that.
This is
We'll hold them off
maybe
as
it's
long as
the
we can.
tism.
And we will do
That's essentially the point
same.
in saying I'm not saying it's bad, but especially when someone uses it to talk about nearly every aspect of the game. If you have an opinion, just have an opinion, and if someone decides to read it wrong, that's on them. Leave them to it and ignore it. No, but here's my problem with that. I'm hold on. I'm going to address that. Here's my issue with that. I'm a streamer. Hold on. I'm a streamer. I'm not here to tell you I don't care about your opinion. Shut up. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do anything that even remotely feels like that. I want to have discussions with you guys. I want to interact. I want you to hear my opinions, and I want to hear your opinions. I want to have a back and forth, and I want to act like a civilized group of people that are able to discuss their opinions about things. If I'm just going to tell you, well, if the first time I hear something that I disagree with is going to trigger me to say, well, all right, then fine, and then I'm just not going to interact with you, why even be a streamer? Why do that? And everybody can stream in their own way. They can do their own thing. But I don't want to do that. I have no interest in doing that. I have no interest in just saying, I have my opinion, you have your opinion, and that's that. And then not actually engaging in it. I need people to understand that when I'm engaging with them, I'm not challenging you. I'm not again, I'm not saying you specifically, but I want people to understand that when I have a differing opinion, I like to have an interesting back and forth. I like to understand other people's points of views, and I like other people to understand my points of views. And none of that is meant to challenge you or to say, you're wrong, here's why. But I'm not going to not do that. I'm not going to not say something about that because not because it's challenging, but because it's interesting. Isn't that interesting? Am I the only one that finds that interesting? I grew up. You know what's funny? I'm sorry. I'm kind of spinning off into a weird thing here. I grew up really not liking people. I grew up as a geeky kid in a world where people didn't like geeky kids. So I got bullied. I got picked on, and I just grew up not wanting to interact with people. And then what I realized was, as I started to meet other geeks, I do like interacting with people. It's just people who make it a point to tell me how much they don't like me and the things that I do. So as I got older, I wanted to interact with more people. I wanted to do that thing that I always kind of missed out on in my life, which is I didn't really get to interact with people as a kid. To an extent. I mean, there were kids that we were geeky with, that I was geeky with, and we were okay, but so as I've gotten to this point where I have the ability to reach people, this is why I always defend the internet. Everybody likes to say that the internet ruined everything and blah, 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 social media. I always defend those things because from my point of view, I get to interact with people in a way that I never really had a chance to do. Sure, there's some pretty crappy people out there with some really bad opinions and some really bad views on life, but there's also a lot of really interesting people too. And I want to do that. And the idea of if we disagree, I'm just going to say that we agree to disagree and then leave it at that immediately. That's just not who I am. It's just not in any way whatsoever. It's just not who I am. I would rather have a discussion about what's going on. I find that fascinating. If people don't like to have that discussion, then they can leave. I'm not going anywhere. They can leave. If anybody has a problem with having a discussion about things, a civilized discussion about likes and dislikes and why we have the opinions that we have, you can leave. That's totally okay. But I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here on my and I will get a little hostile on this one. I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here on my stream. No offense. I don't mean to sound all cocky like that, but because it's our stream. But I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and then anybody come in here and tell me, well, you can't think a certain way or you can't react a certain way. Like, no, I'm going to say what I want to say and I'm going to say it how I want to say it. And I want to make sure that everybody else feels free to do the same thing. Because I don't want anybody to think that they can't say how it is that they feel about whatever the game is or whatever the movie is or topic or whatever. I don't want anybody to think that they can't say anything because I'm going to get pissed off. No, absolutely not. I didn't like Anton Blast, but he said he sees the appeal. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if someone decides that your opinion is just you hate it and it leads to an argument. But when does it? I mean, rarely have we ever argued, right? I got a little heated. Right? Get a little heated sometimes, but I don't argue. If I argue, I'm just gonna then I'll shut it down. I've done that. We've done that before, where I said, look, it's getting a little too heated. Let's shut it down. Move on to a new topic. You know, but I'm never gonna not talk about this stuff. I'm never going to not try and have it back and forth. I just find it fascinating. I find it interesting. We talk about what's a Final Fantasy and what's not a Final Fantasy. Well, how the hell are we supposed to know if we don't have a conversation about it? How are you supposed to, it's an RPG. It's not an RPG. How are you supposed to know what you're even talking about? Hell, we've had that discussion and it turns out that we're thinking about completely different things. Right? What's a Metroidvania? What's not a Metroidvania? Well, you should probably have a discussion about what you think a Metroidvania is before you do that. So for anybody that would say like, oh, well, I disagree. It's like, okay, cool. Why do you disagree? What is it that you see differently that you're looking for? Like I said, with this game, with 16, I think 16 doesn't feel like a typical Final Fantasy game. Why? Because there are certain points that I look at that I associate with Final Fantasy, and they are not here, or they're altered. You know what makes it but it is a Final Fantasy game. You know what makes it a Final Fantasy game? It says Final Fantasy on the box. And when I boot the game up, it says Final Fantasy. And apparently some of the characters' names are Final and Fantasy. Yeah, I just, I'm sorry, that was a weird tangent to go on, but it just kind of bugs me. It kind of, because we've had that before. And the thing is, like, you're fine. Like, everything is okay. It's not hostile or anything. But you've been here long enough to know that we have had people that come in here and they're very hostile about their behavior. They're very hostile about what is this and what is not. And you're stupid. And no. And then I shut that down. I get it out of here. Yeah, the streams are like getting together with your favorite cousins, just chilling, talking about games. And indeed, when I first started, that was one of my thoughts. The first time I ever streamed, the first time I ever had, I think I've told you this story before. The first time I ever had the idea to stream, I was already making some YouTube videos. I didn't make a ton of them yet, but I had a decent amount of them. And there was a night that I was sitting, it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I thought, man, I kind of want to stream right now. Like, I kind of wish that, and I think what it was, I didn't say I kind of want to stream right now. What I said was, what I thought to myself was, I kind of wish I could hang out and talk about video games. That's really, I'm not exaggerating. That was my thought, was like, man, I kind of wish I could hang out and just play video games and talk about them with people. And I think the next day I made my Twitch page. And then I decided I was going to look into what it took to start streaming. The origins of me streaming are not about playing games on stream live. Oh, no. They're about hanging out with people, because that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of the days where I used to do that with my friends.